History is not just a record of what happened, it is also a graveyard of what almost happened. Right now, and forgotten archives, dusty laboratories, and lost libraries around the world, there are inventions that were erased, suppressed, stolen, buried before the world ever got the chance to see what they could do. Some were destroyed by war. Some were swallowed by corporate greed. Others, they simply vanished, and no one ever explained why. Today, we are going to dig up 10 of those inventions. And I promise you, by the end of this, you are going to look at the world very differently. 10. Greek fire. We start in the year 672 AD of the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine navy held one of the most terrifying weapons the ancient world had ever seen. It was called Greek fire, a liquid that, when launched at enemy ships, would burn on the surface of the water and could not be put out. It was the reason the Byzantines repelled wave after wave of Arab naval fleets. It was, without exaggeration, a weapon that shaped the course of the medieval world, and then it disappeared. The exact formula was a closely guarded secret, known only to the emperor and a small circle of engineers. When the empire fractured and those engineers died, the recipe went with them. To this day, no one knows exactly what Greek fire was made of, one of the greatest chemical weapons in human history had gone forever. 9. Damascus steel. If you have ever seen a Damascus steel blade, you know it is beautiful. The dark, swirling patterns almost look alive. But it was not made for beauty, it was made to be unbreakable. Damascus steel was forged somewhere in the region between India and the Middle East, and it made its way into swords carried by warriors from the Crusades to the Ottoman Empire. The blades were legendarily sharp, legendarily strong, and legendarily impossible to replicate, and around the 1800s, the method simply stopped being passed down. Modern metallurgists have spent decades trying to recreate it. Some have come close, but no one has nailed the original process. The knowledge died with the craftsmen who held it. 8. The Baghdad battery. In 1936, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm King discovered something strange in a dig site near Baghdad, a small clay jar of about 6 inches tall containing a copper cylinder, an iron rod, and a layer of asphalt. It looked, to many scientists, exactly like a battery. If it was a battery, and tests have suggested it could generate a small electrical charge, then someone in ancient Iraq, over 2,000 years ago, understood electricity. That is roughly 1,800 years before Benjamin Franklin flew his famous kite. The debate over whether it was truly a battery has raged ever since. But here's what is undeniable. The object exists, and it has never been satisfactorily explained. 7. Stradivarius violins. Between 1650 and 1730, a luthier named Antonio Stradivarius built roughly 1,100 instruments in a small workshop in Cremona, Italy. About 600 of those instruments still exist today, and they are worth millions of dollars each, not because they are old, not because they are beautiful, though they are both. It is because they sound better than anything made since. Modern violin makers, with centuries of accumulated knowledge and technology, still cannot match the tone of a Stradivarius. The wood, the varnish, the technique. Scientists have proposed dozens of theories, but the exact process, the secret that made those violins sing the way they do, was never written down. It died with Stradivarius, an invention that outperforms everything that came after it, and we still do not know how it was done. 6. The Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, divers salvaging a shipwreck off the coast of Greece pulled up a lump of corroded metal. For decades, no one paid much attention to it. Then, in the 1950s and 60s, scientists took a closer look, and they found gears. Dozens of interlocking bronze gears, some as thin as a millimeter. The device, now called the Antikythera mechanism, was an analog computer built over 2,000 years ago. It was designed to predict the positions of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It predicted eclipses. It tracked Olympic Games cycles. It was a feat of engineering that would not be matched for over 1,000 years. And it was on a ship that sank. No blueprints survived. No instructions. We have spent over a century trying to understand how it worked, and we are still not entirely sure. 5. The Lost Belt, Roman concrete. Here is something that should bother you. The Romans built concrete structures that have lasted 2,000 years. The Pantheon, the Colosseum. Port structures submerged in the Mediterranean Sea for millennia still standing. Modern concrete starts crumbling in decades. Roman concrete, called opus caementitium, was a fundamentally different material. Recent research has shown that it actually gets stronger when exposed to seawater, because a chemical reaction forms new mineral crystals inside the structure over time. The exact recipe and process were lost as the Roman Empire declined. We have spent the last century trying to reverse engineer it, and only recently have scientists begun to crack the formula. 2,000 years of engineering were erased by the fall of a civilization. 4. Tesla's wireless power. Nikola Tesla was not just ahead of his time, he was decades ahead of his time. In the early 1900s, Tesla proposed something radical: the ability to transmit electrical energy wirelessly across long distances with no wires, no cables, no infrastructure. He began building a massive transmission tower on Long Island called Wardenclyffe Tower. It was meant to be the first step toward a global wireless power grid of free energy beamed across the planet. And then the funding dried up. J.P. Morgan, Tesla's primary investor, pulled out. The tower was never completed. It was eventually demolished. Tesla's notes on the project were seized by the U.S. government after his death in 1943. Some of those notes have never been made public. Today, wireless power transfer exists, but only at short range. Tesla's vision of global long-range wireless energy, still unrealized, and the full scope of his work still buried. 3. The Viking Sunstone. Vikings sailed thousands of miles across open ocean, through fog, through storms, through polar darkness, and they did it without a magnetic compass. The magnetic compass would not reach Europe until centuries later. So how did they navigate? Medieval Icelandic sagas describe a device called a sunstone, a crystal that could locate the sun's position even when it was completely hidden behind clouds. It sounds like science fiction. It is not. Certain minerals, like calcite, can polarize light in a way that reveals the sun's direction even on an overcast day. Scientists have confirmed this works. Physical sunstones have been found at Viking archaeological sites. The Vikings possessed one of the most sophisticated navigation tools in history, and almost no one remembers it existed. 2. The Library of Alexandria. No list like this would be complete without the Library of Alexandria. At its height, it was the greatest repository of human knowledge in the ancient world. Hundreds of thousands of scrolls, works of mathematics, philosophy, astronomy, medicine, literature, much of it the only copies in existence. It was not destroyed in a single dramatic fire, the way popular myth suggests. It declined gradually over centuries through neglect, through political upheaval, through repeated partial destructions. But the result is the same: an unknowable amount of human knowledge gone forever. We will never know what we lost. That is what makes Alexandria so haunting. It is not just a lost library. It is a lost future, all the discoveries and breakthroughs that might have happened centuries earlier, if those scrolls had survived. And our number one erased invention is not something you will find in a museum. It is not something scientists are actively searching for. It is something far more unsettling. Throughout history, across dozens of civilizations, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, we find evidence of technologies and techniques that should not have existed yet. Precision stonework in ancient Peru, sophisticated astronomical models in Mesopotamia, surgical tools in ancient India that would not be reinvented for millennia. These are not myths. They are documented, they are studied, and they are deeply, profoundly unexplained. What they suggest is that there have been waves of human knowledge, periods of remarkable invention that were lost entirely. Not one erased invention, but entire eras of innovation, wiped clean by time, by catastrophe, by the simple fragility of human civilization. We do not even know what questions to ask, because we do not know what we have lost. Every invention on this list represents something the same, a reminder that progress is not a straight line. It is a road with dead ends, with missing pieces, with entire chapters torn out. Greek fire, Damascus steel, the Antikythera mechanism, Tesla's wireless power, the Library of Alexandria. These were not failed experiments. They worked, they were real, and they were erased. So the next time someone tells you that humanity has always moved forward, that we are always improving, always building on what came before, what did we forget? Subscribe, like, share for more crazy discoveries like this.